Good morning and welcome to the Thursday Thought for this first Thursday in May. Today, as I happened to look out the office door of our church toward the Paxton's blessing box that we have next to the building, I saw a man looking at and taking some of what I had put in the box just a few minutes before. Now, I don't always do this, but today I decided that I'd go out and try to have some kind of interaction with this man. Sometimes that works. Sometimes I'm ignored. Other times the conversation's very guarded and very short. And sometimes it's impossible to have a conversation with that person due to their mental illness. Well, sensing that he was homeless primarily due to his appearance, I watched as he carefully looked over what was in the box and had taken some of it. He did not see me open the door and approach him. I stopped about 20 feet away from him for safety, and I asked, "Do you have what you need?" He turned, looked at me, gave a sort of a universal visual response that he didn't really understand what I was saying. So I moved a bit closer, thinking he may have been hearing impaired, and I asked that question again. He seemed a bit flustered when I asked the second time, but he regained his composure and he said that he was fine. Well, sensing that he was amenable to visiting for a bit, and knowing that I hadn't put any water in the box, I asked him if he maybe needed some water, and that we had some inside if he needed some. He said he could use some water, and I told him to hang out outside there for a minute while I would get some water. I went inside, found a bottle of water, along with actually a bottle of Gatorade, went back out and said that he could have either one or both. Well, he took both. He then asked if we had any socks or maybe a t-shirt. I said, "We don't have shirts here, but I would go in and look for socks. I thought we had some." I found a new pair of socks. I went back outside and I gave them to him. Well, this started a bigger conversation about his inability to get a valid identification. He asked if I knew anyone who could help him get his ID. I think he sensed that I was genuinely interested in his plight, and the words just seemed to cascade from him as he recounted his so far futile efforts over the past several years to obtain a government ID. I think, as with many of these people, he needed someone just willing to listen to him, even if just for a couple of minutes, to what he had to say. And if what he said is even partly true, he's caught in a bureaucratic nightmare of stolen identification, several attempts by others to obtain his ID for themselves by fraud, his inability to access any information about his ID due to the information being locked down by the state because of the theft and fraud attempts, and no one who provides services who will or can help him navigate the bureaucratic maze. He is eligible, if what he said was correct, if he had a valid ID for food assistance, rent assistance, Social Security assistance, and other services. But without the ID, all of the services he otherwise would qualify for are beyond his reach. So, he's on the street. Well, I went inside. I asked our office manager if she knew who helped with ID. The Salvation Army no longer helps with identification. The Red Cross no longer helps with identification. Center of Hope and Open Door do not provide assistance, according to this man. So I called 211, and I got the information on another nonprofit that the operator said might help with identification. So I gave that information to the man, who took off right away for the address that I had been given by 211. I told him that I didn't know this organization and I wasn't sure that they could help, and he said as he left, "Hey, it's a lead," and he went on his way. Well, one thing I haven't said yet about this encounter. Somewhere between my first question asking him if he had what he needed and telling him about a possible contact for help with his identification, he said this to me. He said, "You know, I have never had anyone ask me if I had what I needed. Thank you." Yes, we were able to provide him with some food and water. Yes, we gave him some socks, and yes, we were able to give him a possible lead on his identification difficulty. But I think what really counted, what really mattered to him, was my question asking him if he had what he needed. That interaction, that question, immediately told him that I saw him as a human being, deserving of the dignity and respect that goes with being human. It told him that I did not see him as homeless trash, a lazy good-for-nothing, or a bleeding open sore on society. And let me say this as well. I'm nothing special. I use that same question on many homeless at the Blessing Box who I choose to try to have interaction with. It's just a good way, I think, to pretty much immediately size up that person while keeping safety and physical distance in mind. And I've found that by far most of the people who are on the street will interact with me. They will be cordial. They will, after a moment, sort of let their guard down a bit. And they will appreciate the brief conversation. Now, I know it can be daunting to try to make this kind of connection. I've been working on this for over 10 years, and at times I still feel inadequate. But it's well worth the effort, especially when the church is involved, as we are here at Riverwalk. Now, I hold no illusion that I'm going to see this man at Sunday services or have a conversion as a result of our interaction. But hopefully I've given him a somewhat different and much better opinion of church, religion, religious people by this brief encounter. Well, I truly hope and pray that this man is able to get his identification and get on with his life. And I hope that he stops by in a few months and shows me his ID. Now that would be icing on the cake. Blessings.